Behavioral shifts. When a woman steps outside of the relationship, the very first cracks don't show up in her words. They show up in her behavior. The way she talks to you, the way she looks at you, the way she carries herself in the same room as you. Suddenly, the small routines that felt automatic between the two of you begin to feel forced. That laugh you used to hear without asking for it now sounds rehearsed, or worse, it disappears altogether. She doesn't look at you the same way. Her eyes avoid yours a little longer than they used to, and the warmth in her tone gets replaced with short, sharp responses. At first, it might feel like stress, mood swings, or a bad week. But when the distance doesn't fade, when her irritability shows up for no reason, when she seems bothered by your very presence in situations where she used to be comfortable, that's when you're staring at the first sign. It's not always about anger either. Sometimes it comes in the form of unusual silence, the kind of silence that fills the room and presses down on your chest. She used to share stories about her day, details you didn't even ask for, but now she chooses quiet. She keeps it all inside. That silence isn't random, it's a shift in her emotional investment. Watch closely at how she reacts to the little things. When you try to engage her, does she lean in or does she lean away? When you make a joke, does she find it funny or does she roll her eyes? That shift isn't about you suddenly becoming less funny or less interesting. It's about her redirecting her emotional energy somewhere else. When another man begins to occupy her thoughts, she doesn't have the same bandwidth to give you what she used to. The emotional fuel she once poured into the relationship starts leaking out, and you're left noticing changes that don't add up. Even in physical behavior, you'll see it. She may stop touching you casually, no longer reaching for your hand, or brushing against your arm. Or sometimes it flips. She becomes overly defensive if you try to touch her, snapping at you for something as simple as resting your hand on her back. These are not isolated reactions. They're patterns. Patterns that tell you her energy, her attention, her emotions are no longer aligned with you. Emotional disconnection. When a woman begins to cheat, one of the most undeniable shifts happens on the emotional level. A relationship thrives on connection, those late-night talks, the little updates about her day, the shared dreams of what's next. But when she starts investing her emotions in someone else, that connection begins to collapse from the inside out. Suddenly, she no longer feels the need to confide in you. The stories about her coworkers, the funny incident at the store, the random thought that crossed her mind on the way home, all of it fades into silence. You find yourself realizing that days go by without her really opening up to you. What used to be a constant stream of small conversations turns into short answers and surface-level interactions. It's not just the absence of words, it's the absence of depth. She'll still speak, but her words feel hollow, stripped of the intimacy they once carried. When she talks, you'll sense distance, like she's present in body but absent in spirit. You'll feel it when you ask her about her feelings and she shrugs it off, saying, "I'm fine," or "It's nothing." The woman who once trusted you with her secrets, her fears, and her ambitions suddenly becomes a stranger sitting across from you, guarding herself as if her emotions no longer belong to you. That's because in many ways they don't. They're already being directed towards someone else. Future plans are another place where the disconnection bleeds through. If she once talked about trips you'd take together, the house you'd buy, or even small things like what to do on the weekend, you'll notice she stops including you in that picture. She becomes vague, detached, or simply uninterested in building anything ahead. Her vision of the future is shifting, and you're no longer at the center of it. That subtle withdrawal is one of the most powerful indicators of her emotional disengagement. Pay attention to her reactions when you try to bridge the gap. If you ask her about her day, does she light up the way she used to, or does she look annoyed that you even asked? Or if you try to talk about something meaningful, does she open up, or does she quickly change the subject? Emotional disconnection doesn't always scream at you. It whispers. It shows up in the way she avoids eye contact during serious conversations, the way she seems restless when you talk about feelings, the way she would rather scroll through her phone than engage with you. Protective with devices. One of the most obvious yet overlooked signs of a woman who cheats is the sudden shift in how she treats her devices. Her phone, once casually left on the counter or face up on the couch, becomes something she guards like a state secret. Every notification suddenly matters, and every vibration of the screen is enough to make her flinch. Where she used to toss her phone aside without a second thought, now it never leaves her reach. Even in the most relaxed moments, watching TV, cooking, or lying in bed, her phone stays glued to her hand, her pocket, or buried face down. That's not about being more tech savvy or busy. It's about hiding. She will start setting new passwords, changing old ones, or suddenly enabling security features she never cared about before. If you ask why, the answer will come wrapped in excuses: privacy, work stuff, or I don't want anyone snooping. The irony is, before this shift, she never worried about you picking up her phone, scrolling for a playlist, or answering a call for her. Now, the smallest attempt to touch it will spark an exaggerated reaction. She might grab it out of your hands, get defensive, or even accuse you of being controlling. That level of hyperprotection is not normal behavior in a trusting relationship. It's a cover. Her usage patterns will change too. You'll notice her stepping out of the room to take calls she once would have answered openly. She'll angle her screen away from you without even realizing she's doing it. At night, she may stay up scrolling long after you've gone to sleep, clutching her phone like a lifeline. And when you enter the room, unexpectedly, she'll lock the screen with lightning speed, as if you just caught her doing something criminal. Those little micro reactions reveal more truth than her words ever will. Even her social media habits shift. She may spend longer online, suddenly become more active in private messages, or even create secret accounts. Notifications might get silenced or turned off completely so nothing pops up while you're around. And if you ask about these changes, she'll downplay them, insisting it's nothing, or accusing you of overthinking. But deep down, you can feel the difference. A phone is not just a device, it's a portal. And when she starts guarding that portal, like her life depends on it, it's because something on the other side doesn't belong to you anymore. Changes in routine. When a woman begins to cheat, her routine stops making sense. The flow of her day that you once knew so well starts to fracture. She's suddenly busier than she has ever been. Work demands her late at night. New friends you've never heard of keep calling her out, and errands seem to stretch hours longer than they realistically should. What used to be predictable becomes unpredictable, and every excuse for why her time has shifted feels thinner and less believable the more you hear it. A relationship thrives on patterns, but when those patterns break without a real reason, something deeper is going on. You'll notice she becomes vague when you ask about her schedule. Instead of telling you where she's going or what she's doing, she offers generalities. Just out with a friend. Just busy with work. Just running around. The specifics disappear, and the moments when she used to share her exact plans are replaced with uncertainty. That vagueness isn't accidental, it's a shield. If you don't know the details, you can't question them. If you don't have a timeline, you can't point out the holes. Her priorities begin to shift as well. Things that once mattered to her, time with you, family dinners, shared routines, suddenly take a backseat to these mysterious new commitments. Even when she is at home, her energy feels elsewhere. She might claim she's exhausted, that she's stressed, that she just needs space. But the truth lies in the absence of consistency. The things you could once count on are gone, replaced by a version of her that seems like she's constantly rushing to be somewhere else. Even small details in her routine will change. She might dress differently for places that never used to require that kind of effort. She might wear makeup to run errands or spend extra time getting ready for what she claims is a casual outing. There may be new fragrances, new clothes, new habits that don't quite align with the story she's telling you. Every small shift stacks up, and when you step back, the picture is clear. Her lifestyle is no longer built around the relationship. It's built around something, or someone else. Time itself starts to feel like it doesn't add up. She comes home later than she should, leaves earlier than she needs to, and when you ask her about the gap, she gets defensive instead of explaining. That defensiveness isn't random. It's a sign she's covering tracks. Routine changes don't happen without a reason. And when those reasons always feel incomplete, it's because she's hiding the truth behind them. Subtle guilt signs. When a woman cheats, guilt doesn't always show up in the ways men expect. It's rarely a full confession or a dramatic breakdown. Instead, it seeps out in subtle, confusing behaviors that don't match her normal personality. Sometimes guilt pushes her into overcompensation. She becomes unusually affectionate, showering you with compliments, cooking meals she never bothered to cook before, or suddenly buying you little gifts. On the surface, looks like love, but beneath it's a quiet attempt to balance the scales. She knows she's crossing a line, so she tries to smother that reality with gestures meant to distract you and calm her own conscience. The timing of this sudden sweetness often feels off, almost unnatural, as if she's working harder to convince herself than to convince you. Other times, guilt doesn't create kindness, it creates coldness. Instead of leaning in, she pulls away. Her tone becomes sharper, her patience thinner, and the smallest disagreement turns into an argument. This is projection. She knows she's guilty, but rather than face it, she pushes the weight of that guilt onto you. She may even accuse you of being distant, inattentive, or untrustworthy. By flipping the script, she gives herself an excuse to justify what she's doing. If she convinces herself that you're the problem, she doesn't have to deal with the reality of her betrayal, attention to inconsistencies in her mood. Guilt doesn't stay buried. It leaks out in unpredictable ways. One moment she may be overly nice, the next she's short-tempered without explanation. These swings don't follow the normal patterns of stress or fatigue, come from the internal conflict of living two lives. You'll feel it in her eyes, in the way she avoids looking at you during certain conversations, in the hesitation before answering questions that should have been effortless. Even her language changes. She might start sentences with unnecessary justifications, saying things like, I'd never, or I'm just tired, that's all. The repetition of reassurance where it was never needed before is often guilt trying to cover its tracks. Her stories may become longer than necessary, filled with details that feel rehearsed or strangely too perfect to question. Guilt often makes people talk more than they need to, hoping the overflow of explanation will keep you from noticing the lie hidden inside it. You'll also notice that moments which should feel natural between you start carrying tension. Simple questions make her defensive, simple gestures make her uncomfortable, and moments of intimacy feel heavier than they should. That tension is guilt pressing down on her, reminding her that she's living dishonestly, and no matter how well she hides it, her behavior will always betray her.